So I want to preface this review by just starting off and saying I haven't completed the game yet. I've completed the second island and, I'm currently completing the third one. So for some people, they may be like, oh, well, you haven't finished the game, so you can't really say anything on it. But both those islands were about 3 hours each of me completing them. I think that's more than enough to go over this game because a lot of it feels repetitive. And yeah, when you're doing the same thing over and over again, other than the story details coming in, there's not much else you can say about the game. So I really think it's worth just talking about it now while it's still fresh in my mind. So, Sonic Frontiers is the first open world, or as the game likes to call itself, open zone Sonic game. And I can't lie to you, I have to say, I think this game is, I don't want to use this word, but it feels the most appropriate. It's mid, okay? It's a very average Sonic game, because I feel people take the word mid kind of wrong. When I use mid, I'm saying that it's average. It's a standard game. And that's how it feels here. I hate the fact that Sonic has become this thing where it doing something new like this means that it's free from criticism, at least in the sense that people go, oh, well, this is good for a Sonic game. I don't want it to hit like that. It should be good as a game, period. It is a good game, not it is a good Sonic game. For me, this game just feels like a complete mess. When I started off, I genuinely wanted to love this game. I really did. But after a few hours on stream, not only did the game physically make me ill to the point I had to quit for a bit, even though I only played for a few hours, I was like, I can't stand this game at all. Now, to go over the positives first, I am going to say the movement in terms of the open world feels pretty good. There's a good sense of speed, and I'm sure as you level up, it gets faster. There's some good momentum in there, not in the way that we all wanted there to be, but things like the drop dash actually go down here when it feels good, which is something that I think is crazy to say with 3D Sonic, but hey, there it is and it's happened. So in those notes, it is pretty cool, and exploring the area does feel unique. It does feel different for Sonic, and that's pretty cool. The boss encounters all look different, even if some of them are copied and reused from other things. The encounters are different, and the way you approach these enemies does change, even if I am going to say most of them revolve around using the Psyloop and then attacking the enemies. But everything's also very flashy, I will say. The animations are on point, there's very good music, and yeah, combat looks pretty cool. But that's pretty much all I can say in regards to positives to this game in terms of the gameplay. Story-wise, it's doing okay, but let's go for the negatives, and this is going to be a lot for me. Because I really wanted to love this game, but there's too much where I just look at it and go, why did you do that? Why is this a thing? Why? So let's start off with, how about all the different gameplay styles there are in here? There's so many different mini games and things around the island, which you'd think, okay, cool, that means there's loads of content in this game. But when the content is crap, to me, it doesn't matter if there's loads of content. I'd rather have a small amount of content that's good rather than padding it out with all this crap. There's tons of puzzles in the world that you can go and find, but all of them are so basic and boring, it's brain dead to the point where I find, why am I even doing this? You have the ones where there's the little squares and you just have to make sure you hit all the lights. Literally brain dead. I do it in seconds. I don't even have to think most of the time. It's just, oh, let's see, oh, I finished it. Or there's another one where, again, it's the same blocks and you just move side to side and hit them. Once again, very easy. You could just keep tapping the L and R triggers and you would probably just get it straight away. There's the ones where you have to hoard the Cocos over to whatever specific character is in that island. Once again, very easy, even though it's probably the most challenging of them, and it's still damn boring. The only cool thing about that is the animation that plays at the end. Oh, what other ones do we have in there? There's Big's fishing minigame. This could have genuinely been a good piece of gameplay. We have fishing minigames in loads of open worlds. I'm thinking Final Fantasy, there was a whole system revolving around that. But the thing is, it doesn't go far enough with what it's doing. First of all, there's only a handful of fish to collect. I caught them all within 30 minutes of playing this mode. Literally every fish was cool. I got the trophy. I'm practically almost finished to get the platinum, by the way, but I got practically all of the fish within the span of 30 minutes because the game makes it so easy. I pick one specific area, just keep pressing X, and that's the entire thing. You just press X, you wait for it to shake, you press X, and then a crappy QTE plays, which is so incredibly easy, once again showing how brain dead the game is. It just moves in a circle and you press it, done, you've caught a fish, well done. You do this 20, 15 times, you catch all the items, and you never have to go back there again. The only weird thing about this mode is that it keeps unlockables behind it. All of Eggman's memos are kept within this mode. So if you want to hear more about the story and things you want to learn about, you have to do Big's fishing and get all these coins just to buy all 24 of Eggman's memos. Why? You can also get the Seeds of Power and Defense from here, so if you wanted to go to level 99, this is probably the easiest way to do it. Just keep pressing this 1 QTE, get to level 99, and you're done. But why is this within a crappy fishing minigame? It's cool that Big's here. I mean, I don't know why he's here, but it's interesting that he's in the game. But just to do this? It was better in Sonic Adventure. If they had just kept that, this would have been a more interesting minigame. Yeah, it would have taken longer, but at least there would have been some depth to the gameplay. At least I'd be doing more than pressing the X button. I know I'm harboring on that one, but it just confuses me and it genuinely pains me because a lot of the game is just like this. It feels like, why is this here? This isn't impacting the game and it's not in depth enough to make me care. Are there even other mini games? I feel like I'm missing out some because they're just constantly doing stuff. Oh, you can hit these balls into a ring, that's one. Just by homing attacking really adds nothing. But how about we talk about the biggest one, which is essentially a mini game within itself. It's the cyberspace levels. Now I know everyone's gotten onto these levels and I'm sorry, but I've got to do the same. It's all part of the game. I have to talk about it. But the cyberspace levels are 100% the worst part of the game and they will continue to be so. These parts of the game, not only do they just reuse stuff we've seen before, both in terms of level design and just artistic vision within these levels, it's all the same stuff we played before, but worse. It has the physics of forces, and nothing works as you would think it would. First of all, from someone who was trying to speedrun one of the levels, you know, the 1-2 that everyone said was so hard, most of my mistakes weren't because I couldn't play the level or that it was particularly hard. It was that Sonic just doesn't control well. One thing, for some reason he is so damn heavy when he jumps, exactly like he was in Forces, which just makes me think they did take these from the Forces engine. He has a double jump which just does not work as you think it would. He jumps, and then the second jump is so heavy, it might as well not even be a double jump. He barely does anything. You can't sidestep like you think you would. You just end up crashing to one side of the room to the next if you even attempt it, which is why you just don't sidestep in these levels. And even just moving, just straight up moving, has you hurling in one direction to the other. There's nothing in these levels compared to what was done in Generations or Unleashed, even in Forces, which is so funny to say. But everything about it just feels wrong. Even something as simple as the boost, for some reason they've ruined it. They've done what they did again in Forces and made the boost so that it slightly does an arc when you boost, so you end up flying upwards. Why did they do that? It doesn't help you, it just makes it more annoying than it should be. They also got rid of the invincibility to it, so you can't even boost into enemies anymore, which was one of the most satisfying things about the boost. You could just hurl into enemies and destroy them. Now you have to halt and do a homing attack, which is slow and it ruins a lot of these levels. It is very clunky. It's another one of the reasons why it was so hard to get an S rank on that stage, because there's a point in it when there's just some enemies in the way and it's so hard to just boost around them, when if it was Generations, you would just slam straight into them and move on. It's problems like this that makes me hate this game, despite the fact I was so excited for it. I want to like this game so badly, but it does not give me a reason to care about it. And now I'm going to talk about the part that everybody was excited for. And that's me included. It's the story. Now, don't get me wrong. This is probably the best Sonic story we've seen in literal years. But I think a lot of people equate just having references to being an amazingly written story. It's like, wow, this has references to everything in it. And it does, by the way. Sonic Adventure 1, 2. It even has the comics in there and Sonic Boom. Just to spoil this, I don't care, I'm going to say it. Styx is referenced in the game. And that's like, wow, that's so cool. We haven't had these type of references and it canonizes characters we didn't even know were in the canon. It's amazing. But in terms of actual story, I found myself laughing and giggling constantly. You can go back to the stream and I'm going to put some clips in here. But some of this story is just so melodramatic that I couldn't help but laugh. I know we all laugh at the meta era and how it handles these characters and at the dialogue within it, but some of this stuff is just as cringy in a serious story like Sonic. This whole thing where Amy rants about love and its power and how she's going to use it, I'm sorry, it's funny. There's no way I could take this seriously. I want to love this story because the idea of these Cocos dying and is having references to Sonic Adventure with these characters looking like chaos, and the little things like that reference to Sonic 3 with Knuckles and him learning about his past and how this tribe is kind of like what he experienced with his Echidna race and Angel Island. It's all really cool stuff and in-depth things that we haven't seen outside of the comics and adventure. But when it's all wrapped up in this melodramatic, cringe-worthy kind of dialogue, I can't get into it as much as I want to. Again, I will harp on this. I do not want to go back to the meta era of like Lost World, okay? I don't want to have what Forces had, but sometimes this game feels like Forces in the story department. It does. I'm sorry, but it does feel like that. I feel like I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this video, but these are my genuine thoughts and feelings on this game, and with it fresh in my mind, I can still say and feel that yes, this is a good game. It's fun. Like, I had my moments with it. There were parts where I was like, wow, this open world, it feels like something, but what it feels like is the start of a better game. This is not the game. It feels like the prototype to something that could be good, but it is not in here. Repetitive combat, a kind of weak story in terms of dialogue, just padding and padding with mini games and these cyberspace levels. I can't give this game, if I was the type of guy to give numbers, I couldn't give this game more than a 6. Yeah, more than a 6, not even a 7. I genuinely can't sit here and think of a reason to give this game a 7 because it just isn't that. It's clunky. I didn't even mention some of the broken ass animations when it comes to Sonic's movements. Sometimes he'll just fly off in a different direction. For some reason, when he goes up a hill wrong, he'll start spinning like he's doing a T-pose. There's just so many things in this game that I just can't help but say it's average. I know a lot of Sonic fans are just going to love this game because it is Sonic, and that's fair. To you guys, this game is 100% going to be everything you wanted. But as someone who just likes games in general and wants to be a bit more objective towards it, this is not the game I imagined it would be. As much as I looked at it and thought some things look janky, I thought this is going to be at least a solid game, and it just doesn't feel like that most of the time. There are glimmers of hope within this game, but most of the time I just don't get it. I'm sorry if this comes off as mean, but I just can't change how I feel about this. Sonic Frontiers is a 6 out of 10 game. I said it from the start of the stream, and it turns out I still feel that way now. But tell me what you guys think about Sonic Frontiers. Is this the game you expected it to be? You probably loved it, I'm sure, but I'm just not feeling the same way. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Oh, and before I move on, I just want to give a special thank you to the parry system for probably being one of the worst things I've ever experienced in terms of combat in this game. Now, I want you to think about what a parry system usually does, and then I'll tell you how Sonic Frontiers does it and why I absolutely hate it. Now, when I first started this game, I thought, oh cool, a parry system. That's going to be pretty cool, you know, I'm going to get a lot of depth out of it. I was wrong. The way I kept using the parry system when I first started was thinking, okay, so the enemy swings at me, right? And then I time it perfectly to get the counter attack in, right? I block the attack, I get a counter hit in. I thought that's all you have to do, right? That's how a parry usually works. And that is how it usually works in other games. But Sonic Frontiers decided to do something different. I was stuck for 20 minutes trying to fight the Supersonic boss, thinking, why the hell am I doing absolutely no damage to this thing? Why is it taking so long? Why can't I parry this even though I'm doing it accurately? And it wasn't until I got to that fight and spent so long doing it that I realized Sonic Frontiers doesn't know how to do a parry system properly. In any other game, for instance Bayonetta, it has a thing called witch time. If you dodge the attack at the correct moment, as it's swinging and you get the perfect dodge in, you'll activate witch time, which lets you do damage to the opponent. In Sonic Frontiers, instead of just, the two buttons are the L1 and R1 triggers, instead of just timing it for where the enemy swings at you, it doesn't do that at all. You just hold the L and R triggers and the game parries for you. Everything else is done for you. That's not how you do a parrying system. Here's me thinking Sonic Frontiers knew what it was doing and it was smart about it. So I just, do the parry as you're meant to do it. It swings, you press it, you parry, you attack back. But instead you just hold it and everything's done for you. I was so confused because even in the tutorial, it felt like, oh, I pressed it and it worked. It did it in time with what I was doing. But it turns out it wasn't. That whole time I was sitting there thinking this parry system works as every other parry system in any other game. And it's just the worst thing I've ever experienced in in a game. It's so crap. It doesn't reward you for anything. It takes absolutely no skill. It would have been so much fun if in the middle of an attack you get a perfect dodge and you do extra damage. But instead it's just hold the button when you feel like it and you will automatically parry it. I don't know, it can't just be me that thinks that's a terrible system and not how you're meant to do it. And it had me literally stumped as why it wasn't working because I was perfectly timing it like any other action game. But maybe that's just on me for thinking that Sonic was competent to do a fighting style. But hey, I just wanted to rant about that, but rant over on that part.